Hello, hello. We've got yet another update for the Oscar ceremonies coming your way right now. On top of that, Steven Spielberg still isn't a fan of streaming services, and oh boy, Chris Hemsworth is playing the Hulk. No, not the Hulk, but we'll get to it. We'll explain all the details. It is one heck of a story that broke later this afternoon, and I am so excited to dig into that one with Mark Reilly. And this is Angie Han of Mashable, and not only is she just a great writer all around, but this is one of my best friends right here.
Nice.
Thank you. I'd love to be complimented like that every time I appear anywhere.
We should just record that, and you should just play it every time you walk in a room.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay, good stuff right there. We've got a lot to touch on today, but the first thing we're going to talk about is something that's not on our main lineup, but just something we want to mention up top, because two of us here might have seen Captain Marvel last night, so we're not allowed to talk about it beyond our initial social reaction, but we're going to have Mark Reilly weigh in on this. But first, to read our first reactions to Captain Marvel, I want Angie's to have a little bit of a drum roll effect, so I'll read mine first. So this is all I'm allowed to say thus far, so any follow-up questions, sorry guys, I love you, but I can't answer them. The future of the MCU gets even brighter, adding Captain Marvel to the mix. Really felt for Brie Larson's sass, strength, and energy in the role. Same with Lashana Lynch, too. Ben Mendelsohn is A+ casting as Talos, and yes, Goose is a scene stealer. Second viewing can't come soon enough. Angie, what was your tweet after the screening?
I believe mine was just 4 words, which is, well, Thanos is effed.
Nice. I get that.
It surprised me, like, not the slightest bit, that you would walk out of that screening and essentially do a semi-troll tweet. Reilly, were you in on all the reactions as they were pouring in last night?
Yes, I was. I was checking it out, and I was very excited because, you never know when you're doing Marvel decides to do go back in time. How is it going to land with audiences? I know there were some mixed reactions that I was leading into it. They turned out to not to be true. Everything sounds very positive. However, I have talked to some other people that saw it, and I've heard mixed things. So, but a lot of my colleagues, including you, who have seen this and have said positive things, good stuff for me. I'm excited. I can't wait to see it.
Oh, I can't wait until we can talk about that one a little more and share it with everyone in the office, because no doubt there are going to be some good discussions.
So we can't ask you questions. So Thor's not in it. How about Rocket Raccoon? Winter Soldier. Hey, how about Iron Man? Iron Man's in it. Iron Man's in it. You said it. Iron Man's in it.
Oh,
okay.
No,
takesies backsies.
I hope nobody important was watching that. Before Mark Reilly pushes me any further, we're going to jump into our first official story for the day, and this is the one from the Academy. We got another update for the ceremony that's taking place this Sunday, the 24th, and this new announcement is that 11 unique talents are going to be introducing each Best Picture nominee at the ceremony. So these are people who aren't necessarily involved in film or the filmmaking process as in years past, but perhaps this is going to mean that these individuals will share some sort of personal connection to whatever film they are introducing. These individuals are Chef Jose Andres, Dana Carvey, Queen Latifah, Congressman John Lewis, Diego Luna, Tom Morello, Mike Myers, Trevor Noah, Amanda Stenberg, Barbara Streisand, and Serena Williams. So, Angie, we haven't even spoken about all the different decisions and changes and whatnot that have been going on with the Oscars this year. So, one, what do you make of everything we've heard the past couple of weeks? And then what does this particular announcement do for you?
I mean, I think it goes without saying, like, it's just been the Oscars making one dramatic announcement of what they're going to do this year, followed by a swift retraction after public backlash. Like, that's happened like 5 times at this point. So it is nice to finally get an announcement about something they're going to do different this year that's actually like, that's actually not a bad idea. That actually sounds good. And one that actually sounds like it is respecting the movies and the people who made them, which I think was a big problem with a lot of the other changes they announced, was they seem to be, I get that they're trying to up the ratings and like make the show a little bit shorter, but they kept seeming to do it in ways that seem so disrespectful to the very industry that they're ostensibly honoring. So this one I like. It, I do think that it's a good way to kind of show how like the Oscars aren't just about the people in the industry, but the way that these movies affect people everywhere.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I do understand the value in ratings, but the second you take away some of the value of what it means to get an Oscar, I think even if the ratings work this year, if that starts to decline, you'll never continue to grow year after year after year. So I'm glad to see they put something into effect that, I mean, kind of not even just, I guess, yeah, it builds community here. It shows that any person out there, no matter what industry you're in, can be a film fan and have a real connection, and these movies can make a real impression on a lot of people out there. So, Reilly, with, I don't know, people like we've got a chef, we've got a tennis star, adding these big names, do you actually think that it is going to move the needle at all as far as ratings are concerned?
I don't, as much as I love these names because I can start to pair them up with the different movies that they could probably announce, I could probably see it and go, okay, like Barbra Streisand, I bet she's coming out for A Star Is Born.
I would hope so.
You would hope so, right? So I don't think it will necessarily move the needle for like the broader audience. I think that announcement's going to come, maybe. Maybe we'll get a lineup of like the celebrities, the Avengers that are going to come on and announce this category, or a big guest to come on for this category. I think what this does, it's speaking to the fans that love the Oscars, the movie lovers, that we can actually look at this list now and go, okay, I see what you're doing now. You're getting the unique talents to come in and announce each Best Picture winner. And it's probably going to pull some people that aren't aware of all this Oscar drama. I know my mom's probably tuning in now because Barbra Streisand's
really?
there. Oh, yeah. I mean, she loved A Star Is Born, but she's like, wasn't as good as Chris Christopherson and Barbra Streisand. I'm like, okay, yeah, I disagree. But she's like, oh, how dare you. But with Babs going on there, she's going to tune in and want to tune in, I think, a little bit more. But I think it's the fans, us here at the table. When you look at this, to mirror your point, I agree. I think it's like, this is a nice change of pace from all the back and forth and the dumb decisions that they've been making. This one, it's like, no, this is real, this is happening, and look at all the different people, and you're like, okay, that's good. I'm down.
I feel like putting my little tinfoil hat on right now.
Let's do it.
Just because as you were explaining this whole thing, the first thought that came to mind was, oh, it's nice that we actually landed in a pretty good place with the ceremony, because even though a lot of stuff is still up in the air, we've never really had a no-host situation before, so who knows how that's all going to pan out. The fact that they've, at the very least, announced a whole bunch of terrible things and then backpedaled on all of them, and wound up in a place where not only do we have these unique talents announcing the Best Picture nominees, but we have freaking Queen playing. We're going to have Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga and really all the song nominees. All 24 categories are going to be announced live. It almost feels like I feel like I've been given something great, even though some of these things have been taken away and then given back to me.
Oh, that's so messed up. Like when you were talking about how oh, it's great that all the original song nominees are performing. It's like, yeah, they usually do.
Yeah. So I don't know, maybe it's some sort of backwards mentality that I am not condoning whatsoever, but I'm glad that now that we're so close to the actual ceremony, at least we've landed in a better place. And hopefully they could use all these things as, a little bit of an experimentation process and, cut whatever doesn't work for next year and figure it out in a more appropriate way.
I think they'll be looking at this telecast especially hard for the ratings. How does it work without a host? What is needed to move that needle? Is this part of it? Is it then finally allowing? I don't think they'll ever do the best popular film.
Oh,
I think
please no.
I think that's out of there. I mean, you nominated Black Panther. Well done. Just see what happens now. I think this is the telecast, especially that they're going to be watching because they made a lot of misses, and let's see what hits they do and take notes and see what happens for next year.
Oh, I'm so curious.
I am too.
So we're going to move on to our next story now, but just briefly, I'm going to throw in that we are live streaming here the entire Oscar ceremony. We're going to have a pre-show and a post-show, and then you could watch the whole Oscars with us as we chime in on all of the different categories and winners and performances, you name it. So tune in right here, Collider Video, Sunday the 24th at 5 p.m. PT. We will be here to watch with you guys. The next story here is another quote from Steven Spielberg regarding his feelings on streaming services and how that's going to impact the theatrical experience. So this quote came during a speech that he gave at the CAS Awards, and here is what he said. I hope all of us really continue to believe that the greatest contributions we can make as filmmakers is to give audiences the motion picture theatrical experience. I'm a firm believer that movie theaters need to be around forever. I love television. I love the opportunity. Some of the greatest writing being done today is for television. Some of the best directing for television. Some of the best performances are on television today. The sound is better in homes more than it has ever been in history, but there's nothing like going to a dark theater with people you've never met before and having the experience wash over you. That's something we all truly believe in. So, Reilly, where do you stand on the whole theatrical versus streaming conversation? Because I don't know, it just seems like every other day I'm getting pushed and pulled in another direction, and I'm having a very tough time finding that happy medium.
I mean, it's for filmmakers like Spielberg, I get what he's saying because I love the theatrical experience. Most of you know, I sometimes miss the press screenings here, and then I'm offered maybe one closer to release date. And if it's a movie that I really want to see in theaters, I want to go opening night. I want to be there, like Spielberg said, with a bunch of people I've never met, having that experience, that communal experience. I never want to see theaters go away, and I don't think theaters will go away. What worries me about streaming is that the smaller movies are going to go away, and they're going to end up on streaming, and we're only going to have Marvel, Star Wars, and DC and Godzilla in theaters, and that's it. And that's what worries me, because the opportunities for filmmakers who have a voice, who are making these movies, call it independent or smaller, even smaller studio movies, are going to start going away, because there's like these audiences are now starting to get trained, including me, that I'll just wait for video, or I'll wait for it to stream, or what have you. And I think Spielberg is fighting the good fight. It's hard to tell, though. I mean, I don't think movie theaters will ever go away. I understand what he's saying, but there is also the benefit of streaming, where we get a movie that, or a TV show, and he had a lot of praise for TV shows, and some of the best stuff is happening on television, which I agree. But there are great movies that are being made for Netflix, specifically for Netflix. But for, like, let's say Scorsese, The Irishman, I want to see that in a theater because of the de-aging technology, because of the heavy hitters like De Niro and Pacino and Joe Pesci coming back, and it's Scorsese. So as much as I will be tempted, if it lands on Netflix, that I'm going to watch that thing, I am so hoping there's going to be a theater that I can go to and watch it.
Yeah, something that you just touched on a little is actually something that Steven Spielberg himself had mentioned a while back, just in terms of basically the theater only being a place for the biggest, most expensive movies, right, and that window closing for smaller releases. And this is when he made those comments about movies that are made for streaming services and basically being put in theaters just for a limited time, just to basically get them in the awards conversation. And he, of course, didn't like that. But the other quote was, the difference today is that a lot of studios would rather just make branded tentpole guaranteed box office hits from their inventory of branded successful movies than take chances on smaller films. And those smaller films the studios use to make routinely are now going to Amazon and Hulu and Netflix. And then on top of that, he went into how basically filmmakers working on smaller films are going to feel less inclined to, let's say, go to a Sundance and sell their film there, because they're just going to want to, and actually, as I'm saying this quote might feel a little dated given how many movies Amazon snatched up this year, but he was basically saying filmmakers aren't going to want to go there and find the best theatrical distribution deal. Instead, they're going to look for the best VOD opportunity, and that could completely change the landscape overall. So, Angie, weigh in here on Steven Spielberg's comments, and specifically, do you think that this is a situation where he is just kind of like stuck in the old days and you're kind of rooting for him to just get with the times already?
I don't have a great answer for that. Like, like you were saying, I'm sympathetic to a lot of things that he's saying, and I do worry about the fact that it seems like, I know if it's like an Avengers movie, that obviously I know that's in theaters, I know I'm going to see it in theaters, I know my friends are going to see it in theaters, but even as someone who covers movies, I've made the mistake of like seeing like a trailer for an indie film on YouTube and being like, oh, I assume that's coming to Netflix, right? Oh, it's a theatrical movie. Oh, I didn't even, so like even I'm starting to do that, and that kind of does worry me. I don't know that like saying like, didn't he also say something about how like, I feel like, sorry, I'm not being very articulate. I feel like this also brings up like those really difficult questions of like what counts as TV and what counts as movies. Like there's a lot of there's a lot of movies that are made for TV networks or for Netflix. There are a lot of things that were made for, like, with the intention of being a theatrical release, but then end up on like Amazon Studios and not getting theatrical release. So I don't know. Well, I realize this is such a non-answer, but I don't have a great answer.
That's kind of the point of bringing this topic up over and over, because every single time a filmmaker weighs in on it, or there's a new, even when we were talking recently about Netflix joining the MPAA, it's all factoring in. There's a million different moving pieces here that change every single day. And it could completely, even within a year, change the theatrical landscape as we know it. And it's scary.
It is a bit scary. And, to your point as well, Angie, like we're giving non-answers because there's so many different things you can look at. And I could look at a filmmaker that puts blood, sweat, and tears into a movie, and then Netflix offers them a great deal, and that movie is now going to be seen and your art is out there. Do you wait and hope a studio bites? But then here we are. They're looking at Avengers, or they're looking at a big tentpole, guaranteed money in the theatrical thing. So I would go, here you go. Here's my film. I'll take it on Netflix. That's a good deal. That's something that gets it out there. But again, you want it for theaters. It's such a hard conversation to have. There's so many layers to this thing now.
And then you factor in how studios like Disney are starting up their own streaming services. Right. And, I don't know how many mid-range budgeted movies Disney was making to begin with, but it seems like all the risk will be relegated to streaming services, where they don't necessarily have to dump a significant amount into a marketing campaign versus pumping that money into a theatrical release, which it's very frustrating. And I know this sounds like a major downer of a conversation, but the flip side to all of this, which is always why when I read a quote from someone like a Steven Spielberg, is, the name of the game now is finding ways to increase creative opportunities, and that's what streaming services are doing. They're taking way more. Look at Netflix's original lineup, both on the TV and the film front. They're taking way more risk than any big studio out there.
But maybe that's kind of one of the things that's weird about it. Now you almost expect that a big studio is not going to greenlight a mid-budget kind of, maybe it'll do well, maybe it won't do well kind of thing. Now we basically expect that they're just going to stick to big expensive tentpoles over and over, and we kind of I feel like we're gradually coming to expect that it's fine, Amazon and Netflix have that kind of stuff covered. So, which then just reinforces that those kinds of movies end up on streaming instead of in theaters, where, to go all the way back to the beginning of the conversation, you don't get that kind of big communal experience in the theater that
That's so sad. It just feels like we just went back down that dark path.
I don't think it's all sad. I don't know. I feel like we've all been kind of back and forth on this, and I think that's because it's not all sad. I do watch stuff on Netflix that I wouldn't watch necessarily go out of my way to see in a theater. It is true that Netflix and Amazon have made a lot of films available to people who might not have been able to see it otherwise. So there's definitely positive there. It's just very hard to kind of. I think the problem is that so much of what we're talking about right now is trying to guess at how this is going to change the landscape, and we just don't know. We can make our guesses, we can hope for the best, but there's at the end of the day, I don't know. I'm shrugging. I have no idea.
Yeah, the way you break it down, though, it seems like there's high hope for more creative opportunities out there, but it still does seem like the theatrical experience as we know it is on the losing end of this battle.
It seems like theaters themselves, not even talking about the kind of movies that get made, but it seems like theaters are also just trying to make an effort. I know
catch up almost.
Yeah, you get more and more theaters that have more bells and whistles and amenities. You get those Alamo Drafthouse type ones, or things that have a similar model where you can eat and drink while you watch, and I feel like I've seen more and more luxury theaters, or IMAX is another big thing that they're trying to make money off of. So it's not just whatever the studios are producing. That's a huge part of it, obviously, but I feel like another part of it is just the theatrical experience itself is. We'll see how that evolves.
Yeah, and I wonder how much theaters and theater chains are paying attention to these streaming services and checking analytics and checking numbers, because another part of the debate is movies coming out. You look at your wallet, you go, okay, the ticket prices are through the roof, parking, all the buying popcorn or maybe some wine. There's some wine with me.
Of course.
Paying all this money, then you're looking at these outrageous prices, and you're like, you know what? I'm gonna stay at home and watch Netflix then. So I'm wondering if there's something, maybe there's some good that can come out of it that some theater chains can look at. We are actually losing audiences, and that might travel to the studio, of course, but what can we do so you will come out and see Isn't It Romantic? You know, a smaller movie, rom-com, great concept, but come out to the theater. Do you want some wine? Well, we have a happy hour. We're going to comp your parking. Ticket prices, we're having something like a special 2-for-1. Something that will get people to want to do the theater experience, because I think there's a little hand in hand here. You have the streaming, but you have the realistic thing that these ticket prices are going up. I know we live in LA. It's a little different. We're a petri dish of like nonsense sometimes. But seriously, look at the theater chains and do something that will get people out in the theater because of that special theatrical experience Spielberg talks about.
Right.
I haven't heard of many big changes about the special theatrical experience, but my mind immediately goes to the rise in subscription services now with different theater chains. Which, that conversation has been a little quiet lately, I guess because maybe MoviePass isn't making as much noise as it once was. But
I think it just recently died its 18th death or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to pose this question to you guys out there. What do you think of this whole kind of conversation that's happening right now? Do you think there is any hope for lower budgeted movies in the theater having the theatrical experience with them, or do you think we're just destined to wind up with movie theaters only playing the biggest blockbusters and then streaming services being the place to go for mid to low budget movies? Weigh in the comment section below. I want to know what you think about that. I'm also going to remind you that at the very end of the show, we're going to take your live Twitter questions. So start sending those in right now. We're going to have time for a bunch of them, and I want to hear what you guys want to know. Now we're moving on to our title topic for the day. This was such a surprise when it popped up on Slack. I just heard The Office erupt when this one came through, and I'm like, what could that possibly be? And I don't think I ever would have guessed that this was the story. So we've got THR reporting that Chris Hemsworth is going to portray Hulk Hogan for a biopic directed by Todd Phillips. The project is being developed for Netflix. In the 1980s, Hogan was a pro wrestling megastar who was a big part in revolutionizing the World Wrestling Federation. Later on, of course, Hogan became embroiled in a sex tape and racial slur scandal. The THR report notes, though, that the biopic will decidedly not touch on the latter days of his story, and instead, it's being described as an origin story of the Hulkster and Hulkamania. So, Angie.
Yes?
If I ever told you that they were going to make a Hulk Hogan biopic, would you ever in a million years have said, oh yeah, Chris Hemsworth, he's going to play that role?
Here's the thing, it never occurred to me to wonder who would play Hulk Hogan in a biopic, so I can't say oh no, obviously it would have been this other guy. I will say that, like everyone else, I was surprised. My friend dropped the link to me, and I was just like, what? Wow, It felt like, when I was reading the headline, it felt like, you know how some news feels like someone was playing Mad Libs and then they just decided to publish it?
That's yeah.
I was just like, oh, sure, okay, I guess.
Do you think this is a good move for him, per se? Because obviously he's got Thor, big Avenger spotlight, but we've also seen him do a lot of comedy, and I'm not quite sure how to read into exactly what this is, although Todd Phillips, as director, could maybe give us a hint, and the focus of the biopic could give us a hint as well. But it's like, looking at Chris Hemsworth's resume, do you think this is a good move for him, or I don't know, should he do a leap and take a super serious drama, go back to his Rush days or something?
He's done super serious dramas, he's done comedies. I personally like him better in comedies.
In The Heart of the Sea.
He did do Into the Heart of the Sea.
He did. We saw him on set.
We did. Yes. I mean, he's also done. He did Black Hat and stuff like that. He's done dramas. He's done comedies. He's very funny. I feel like I'm not gonna know. I'm not gonna have a better sense of how this is gonna turn out for his career until I have a better sense of what it is. I do think that the fact that this film already seems like it's potentially kind of controversial is maybe not gonna be super helpful to him. I mean, we'll have to see how that plays out, but already I'm seeing a lot of people being I'm not so sure, because Hulk Hogan himself is such a controversial figure at this point that I feel like that's going to color a lot of it.
Well, that perfectly leads the way to what I wanted to ask you, Reilly. You get the big question right now, and it's that, do you think that they're kind of drawing the line here in the wrong place. Does that concern you at all, especially with Hulk Hogan reportedly being a consultant on this movie?
Oh, wow. Yeah, if Hulk is a consultant, then I bet they're going to stay away from that stuff. Personally, I think that's a mistake, but because Hulk's involved, and he's probably not wanting to play that. So what I think is going to happen, one, Chris Hemsworth is a fantastic choice for this. I think it's perfect for him. I think this is the right move after Thor. If indeed Endgame is the last time we'll see him as an actor as Thor. And this is like, you can get some drama in it and some really dramatic acting based on him wanting to build an empire under Hulkamania, him being that character in the ring, outside the ring, both in the ring and out of the ring. However you do it, there's going to be some great comedic moments. But, you know, you watch that Andre the Giant documentary that was on HBO. There is a lot of drama there, a lot of what goes into being a wrestler. I think of The Wrestler, the actual movie The Wrestler, and what the toll it takes on the body. So we can really break down some dramatic moments here in that perfect heyday of Hulkamania. But I don't know how you don't touch that. I don't know how you don't go to the more controversial nature and see what that does to a character. I would love to see that being a part of it, but it looks like because of the age of Chris Hemsworth that they're going to stick in Hulkamania. So we're going to get Andre the Giant versus Hulk Hogan in WrestleMania. We're going to see that dynamic. We're going to see the dynamic of building all the fans and the birth of this WWF at the time. So fine, that's interesting enough for me. It is, but as somebody that loves character studies, I want to see the whole picture.
It's interesting to think about, you know, we're all well aware of the full extent of his career. I imagine a story like this might sit just fine with someone who's first learning about Hulk Hogan through this biopic, but I can't imagine, at least right now, just speculating based on the limited information we have, I can't imagine this film ending in a place that feels satisfying and semi-conclusive when I'm so well aware of what came after. I think that's part of the problem. And it's also, you know, all the stuff, good or bad, that comes after a pivotal moment in a career then kind of reframes everything you went through before, and it's part of the full, complete experience. So I guess I'm going back to, I don't quite understand how you can just cut it off at that point.
It just also, like, you know, the stuff that made him, like, that stuff about him that's less flattering, that's more controversial, is stuff that's also more recent, so it's fresher in people's minds than even a lot of the stuff that he was beloved for in the past. Like, if you're, especially like if you're a younger person now, like all his best days were like when you were very little, or maybe even before you were born. So yeah, so I feel like it's gonna feel very strange to. I guess a lot of biopics do this to some extent, where a lot of them kind of ignore or like skate around the more controversial, messy stuff. But I feel like it's going to be harder to get away with that when the stuff that was messy and bad is so recent and was so public and is still so fresh in people's minds.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Burning question right now, though.
Yeah.
Who had a Hulk Hogan pillow pal?
Did you?
Of
you
course
said that
I
like
did. Of course I did. They weren't called pillow pals, right?
I'm pretty sure I had
like
them.
The pillow guys that looked like this.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I'm pretty sure I had one. Yeah, I had. Well, and I had all the action figures. That was the only time. You know, we talk a lot about this in wrestling and that kind of community through the Schmoedown, right? And I didn't get into. It was after Hulk Hogan took on Andre the Giant where I just kind of moved on from wrestling for whatever reason. But I had those action figures. I had those video games. I was reading those magazines and comparing their biceps, and we would do push-ups in the yard and go, see, my bicep got bigger. It's almost to Hulk Hogan's. No, dude, it still will never be closer to Hulk Hogan. So yes, that part is going to be very interesting. But yeah, I think we're all on the same page. But we would love to see more. And I think your point is very accurate. There's so many people that know Hulk Hogan. You mean with the thing that is that going to be the movie? Probably not. But Todd Phillips, I wouldn't put it past him. And maybe there's something at the very end that teases it. Who knows? It's really hard to say, based on this limited amount of information. Yeah, hopefully we'll get another update on this one soon. But that's what we've got for now. And we've got one more story to hit today before rolling into your live Twitter questions. And this is for a new trailer. So yet again, Netflix we're talking about here. They released a trailer for a movie called The Dirt. This one's directed by Jeff Tremaine, and it follows the rise and exploits of the rock band Mötley Crüe. It's based off their book that they co-wrote with Neil Strauss
Blumhouse. It's called The Dirt: Confessions of the World's Most Notorious Rock Band. It arrives on Netflix on March 22nd. So, Reilly, given the fact that we are seeing so many music biopics right now, what does this one do for you? Does this trailer in particular put The Dirt on your radar more so than all the other things around right now?
Well, yeah, I'm a Mötley Crüe fan. I grew up, I mean, first we go from Hulk Hogan and WrestleMania that when I was in elementary, then we're going to my middle school, high school years where I was like, Mötley Crüe, yeah, Skid Row, yeah, Metallica, yeah. These are the bands I used to listen to. And the Mötley Crüe, The Dirt, I know that, I haven't read the book, but I have a colleague friend that's like, you would love this as a Mötley Crüe fan, because I followed their career. I followed all the mishaps, the rise and the fall, and everything in between, right? So this is totally on my radar. To talk about the performances that I'm seeing in this trailer and the trailer itself, it was okay for me. I thought it was like, yeah, I'm interested. I'm going to see this because of Mötley Crüe and what I know. But the trailer was less interesting to me. It looked kind of, we get it. It's like, they're like, we're going to be famous. We're famous. We're going to blow stuff up. We're going to throw things out windows. We're rock stars. And then what happens after that? So I'm interested in it. I think it's great that it's on Netflix, because it's going into that conversation we had with Spielberg and Netflix streaming. That's going to be a real easy pull for me. That's landing on Netflix, and I'm immediately hitting stream.
I had a similar feeling as you with the beginning of the trailer. The whole part where it's like, we want to be famous.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I've seen that before. I've actually seen that a
this.
couple of months ago. I don't know if I need that. But when they start breaking shit, that's where I'm like, oh, I'm just kind of mesmerized by all this right now. And that was making me think that it's an interesting choice to have Jeff Tremaine be the director on this, because of course he did the Jackass movies and Bad Grandpa, and
that's right.
I can't put like a specific finger on it, but I feel like I get those vibes, you know, that total chaos and just like the physical comedy and stunts of those movies. I felt like that was kind of being applied to some of the more extreme things that were happening here, or maybe it was just me projecting it on the trailer knowing who was behind the lens, but that stuff felt very extreme to me. And I was thinking about this while we were talking about, you know, having maybe like a more sanitized version of Hulk Hogan in the story before. It looks to me like they're freaking going for it. They're going to go to all these dark, crazy places, and they're not going to hold back. And I think that's what appeals to me about this trailer more so than anything. Angie, I'm curious to get your opinion after getting Reilly's, because you are not the biggest Mötley Crüe fan. You're not a fan.
What?
But you just,
how dare you?
Don't know the band as well as Reilly. So coming at it from that perspective, what did this trailer do for you?
I mean, it sounds like very few people know the band as well as Reilly, and so I do not. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of neutral on them. I know and enjoy some of their music, but I wouldn't call myself like a big fan or anything. I guess like the trailer looks fine, but I keep having this thing where I watch these like musician biopics, and I keep thinking like, oh, so it's like Walk Hard. And I did get that from this too, where I'm like, I mean, and you know, it's a trailer, so I don't want to judge the whole movie. Maybe the movie will have a lot going on that I don't know. But like, even as I was going to darker places, I'm like, yeah, they always go to darker places with these movies. Like, sure. And like, maybe the kind of comedy and physical stuff will be more interesting. Like, perhaps it'll be in service of something interesting, or perhaps it'll just be another movie that we have seen 10 million times before. I don't know.
That's what I'm a little worried about as a Mötley Crüe fan. And to your point about the director, I didn't pick up on the Bad Grandpa and the Jackass stuff, and that actually worries me a bit, because that is so rooted in slapstick and just let the cameras roll and watch Johnny Knoxville fall off a building. There's not a lot of like creative direction to that. So when you transfer that to the trailer, you know, to your point, Angie, then it becomes like I've seen this movie before. I've seen like it's following those beats of these biopics and these big rock kind of things. It's almost following the plot of Rockstar, that Mark Wahlberg, Jennifer Aniston movie, which was a takeoff on the glam metal and him being a part of that, a la a Mötley Crüe kind of band. So I hope we get something different. The trailer was, you know, okay for me, but I'm going to see it because of Mötley Crüe and what I know of them, like I said, but I hope we get something special. We'll see.
Well, like, as a fan, did you think that the actors and, you know, kind of the general performances seemed to capture the energy you're looking for?
That's the thing. They didn't remind me of the band I know, but I didn't mention any of that because I'm like, it's a trailer. Let's see.
Yeah,
I have to
fair.
we have to inhabit those characters. Let's see how they there's Vince Neil. There's Nikki Sixx. Tommy, there you are. Okay, you're wearing your sister's pants. All right. So, I see the characters. I see the personas that I knew. Let's see how they work in motion in the narrative of the story.
Douglas Booth is hardcore glaring at you right now. He does not approve.
Yeah, he's giving me the side eye. He's like, bro, come on, Mötley Crüe.
He's
us.
got quite the side eye right there.
Yeah, that's all right. I'm giving it a chance. I'm going to watch this thing.
March 22nd on Netflix. It makes it very accessible.
Yeah.
I imagine I will give it a chance. So we'll see about that one. That's it for our full stories for today. But right now, it is time to tell you about a bunch of stuff coming to Collider soon. You are already well aware of our Oscar plans, so be sure to tune in and tell everybody you know about that. On top of that, tomorrow is Thursday. So that means a brand new episode of Jedi Council coming your way. We've got Collider Live. And then, of course, we are right back here, or at least I'm not. Mark Reilly's hosting the show tomorrow. I should plug this. I am off to Hawaii for Amazing Comic-Con to host some panels. Yeah, bye. I'll be back on Sunday.
Wait a minute. What's going on?
So,
I'm hosting movie talk? Wait, okay.
Surprise. Hope you're prepared. So that's the plan. If you are in Hawaii for the event, come say hello to me. Say hello to Coy. Nice. We're going to be hosting panels all during the con, and should be a good time. So that's the plan.
You're in Hawaii.
Yeah,
you're going to get some nice weather out there.
I'm looking forward to it. It's a quick trip. I got to rush right back here to be ready for Oscar night.
Oh my God, that's right.
It's going to be a good weekend.
Wait a minute. Wow.
This is my kind of weekend, as crazy as it sounds, and I can't wait.
Perri, you're a jet setter now.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
I am fully embracing that.
Yeah, okay. Well done.
So right now it is time to take your live Twitter questions. And we are going to kick this off with Sterling Jones, who's asking, name an actor or actress that you feel has the talent to become a well-known name, but hasn't due to bad choice of movies or just being overlooked.
Oh, that's a good one.
I got one.
I always, what jumps in my head always, because he was so great in Last Survivor and didn't get a good chance with his Gambit, but Taylor Kitsch. I just love what he does. Ben Foster as well. I'm going down the Last Survivors list.
Lone Survivor.
Yeah. Thank you. But yeah, he's always been somebody that he got a bad break with, like John Carter and then Gambit, and so I always say, why don't we look to him for maybe the next Wolverine, and maybe he can become something bigger. But that's the first name that came to my head.
You got anyone, Angie?
I'm thinking, and maybe it's because I was just watching this movie like a couple nights ago, but Rachel McAdams, who was recently in Game Night, she's someone that every single time I see her, I'm like, how does she not have a better career? Like, she's fine. She got an Oscar nomination for Spotlight. I know she's not exactly hurting, but I'm always just like, she seems like she should be way bigger than she is.
What was the movie she did with Rachel Weisz recently? I heard that was really good, but it never...
Disobedience?
Yeah. I heard that was really good. It just never kind of, broke through the clutter at the time. But one of the names that comes to my mind pretty quickly, because the movie is out right now, is Rosa Salazar. So... Yeah. She's been on my radar for so long right now. I think one of the first movies I saw her in is this teeny tiny comedy she did with his name is escaping me right now, but I'm going to think of it. It's called Night Owls, and I saw it at South by Southwest a little while back, and just her comedic timing and physical performance in that is so freaking good. And I thought she was okay in that second Maze Runner movie, but that movie around her just wasn't super special. And I hear that she is phenomenal in Alita. I still have to catch up on that one, but I wish she would get that major breakout role that would just make her a household name, because from a talent perspective, she seems to deserve it.
Right.
Yeah, Adam Pally. That's his name.
Adam Pally.
And he is wonderful, too. I'm sad I forgot it. All right, we got another question here from Anthony Shannon, and he's asking, what is your favorite musical moment in a non-musical? For me, Will Ferrell singing opera in Step Brothers always makes me smile. Honorable mention is rocking out to Bohemian Rhapsody in Wayne's World.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
oh, man.
that is a good one.
Okay, that's a good one.
It is referenced in the movie Bohemian Rhapsody.
That's right. Okay. Non-musical, but music moment. My God. Now, what are the conditions of these musicals? Do they have to break out in song and sing and it's like a well-known musical, or are we calling like Footloose a musical?
Can it be like the score, or does it have to be like a song?
I think it could be worked into the. I love how I'm making these rules. I think it could be worked into the movie more subtly. Like if, let's say, like I'm picturing. I don't know why I'm picturing the karaoke scene now in 500 Days of Summer, but something that isn't like everyone do a song and dance, but it's just something that naturally happens in life.
Okay, I got one. This is kind of random, but in the movie American Honey, when Shia LaBeouf and Sasha Lane see each other for the first time across like a store, and then Rihanna's "We Found Love" starts playing, and it's just this really perfect moment that I feel like so perfectly captures like the romance of it, but also just like, you know, like it's an experience that we've all had, going grocery shopping, and then that song comes on, and I don't know, just something about the exact setting and the song and like the characters just played so perfectly for me. And it also felt to me so much like, and this is from my childhood, but like, you know, the first time Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes see each other in Romeo and Juliet, and it just felt like such a dirtbag version of that, and it was just so perfect. I love it.
Oh man, this is still okay. So I'm gonna go just to last night where I finally watched, I did my rewatch of How to Train Your Dragon 2. And there's the moment when Stoic finally realizes his wife is still alive and they're reconnecting, and like Hiccup's watching them and he's like, oh my God, my parents are back together. And he's like, you remember this? And he starts singing the song about her. I freaking cried. I was like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. And they got back together and then they got attacked. So it was very cut short, but does that count?
That's a good call.
Or should I go, you know, Almost Famous, Tiny Dancer in the Bus?
Oh, well, yeah.
But that's a musical.
I think,
but it's a it's kind of like a faux biopic about oh God, Clearwater? Was it? No. What's their band's name?
Stillwater?
Stillwater. Yes. Thank you, Schmoedown. Yeah, that's, I mean, I know there's music in that. It's their own music and it's about the rock and roll lifestyle. But that moment when they just start singing Tiny Dancer is one of the most beautiful moments in the movie.
I have a much classier answer than that one.
Oh, good.
Go
the
ahead.
Billy Madison song.
Oh, yes.
hands down one of my favorite things. And the answer in regards to Billy Madison can either be, you know, the big song and dance with all of his classmates, or even the shampoo and conditioner jingle in the bathtub.
I don't know. Do you want any more gum?
More gum.
More gum.
More gum.
More gum.
Right.
Do you want any more gum? Sorry. Okay, we'll stop now.
You never have to apologize for that,
I
ever.
love that. That's a good one. Yeah.
Here's a good question from Jedi DMF. He's asking, who is the new host of Movie Talk? I have an answer for that. Not me. And we're not ready to tell you everything just yet, but something is cooking and I'm really excited to announce it when we are ready to go. But in the meantime, we're going to be here making sure you have your movie news every single Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, never skipping a beat. But there's something good on the horizon, I promise you that. This next question is from Roberto Duke, who writes, do you think the Hogan... I'm sorry, Roberto. I meant to bring this up during the Hulk Hogan story. I'll read it anyway. Do you think the Hogan biopic will be an insider retelling of Hogan in the business or something to help his status in the public eye? I personally am leaning towards the latter. Oh, that's interesting.
Say it again. I'm sorry. It was I missed towards the end there.
He's asking if we think that this biopic is going to be an insider retelling of Hogan in the business, or if it's going to be something to help his status in the public eye. And he says that he's leaning towards the latter, which I think maybe, you know, in hopes that this I don't know why I keep calling it a documentary. This biopic puts Hulk Hogan in a better light.
I think it's going to do both. I think it's the first part where it's going to really focus on the business side of it. I kind of spoke a little bit about it. I think it's really Hulk Hogan in the WWF era. You know, you bring up the pillow. You bring. I was talking about the action figures. He really transcended the actual sport of it and became a celebrity. And I think by maybe seeing it through a little bit of rose-colored glasses for some of that will make the public image a little bit better for him after the movie. But again, we had that conversation. We wanted to see them go there. So, who knows?
All right. One more question today.
Okay.
We're going to end on this one from Chris El Guapo, who's asking, which of this year's Best Picture nominees do you think we'll be talking about 30 years from now?
All right, quick. What are all the Best Picture nominees?
Oh, God, I should be able to list them all off the top of my head.
Panther, Black
like I
Panther.
can-
Roma, Green Book,
Green Book.
Black Panther, Black Klansman, Vice, Bohemian Rhapsody, The Favorite.
That's it.
8. No,
Wait, 8.
I haven't
There's
named
one more.
8.
What's it? Yeah.
A Star is Born.
A Star
Star is Born.
Yeah.
Well, apparently not that. We're not even talking about it now. So.
That's a good question. I mean, I feel like, oh man, that's such a good question.
I feel like it's going to be A Star is Born, actually, because they're going to remake it again in 30 years.
There you go. Yeah.
No.
I mean,
Of course they will. They've been remaking it every 30 years since
I'm
the
not
beginning
saying
of time.
no, they're not going to remake it, but it's like
That's like not the answer else to give, huh?
I want to interpret this question as like, which movie will stand the test of time and like make waves and become a classic? But that doesn't even necessarily have to be the way you interpret the question.
Which I did not.
Oh, it's great. Well, guys, you see breaking news. They're doing a remake of A Star is Born. It's they recast. Oh, sorry. No, that's not true. That's a really hard question. The one that keeps popping in my head is Black Klansman. It just seems like it can really just kind of stand the test of time because we're in such a divisive time that it was made for our time, but showing how we're mirroring that time. So I'm wondering if it can, hopefully not though, where it's like we keep going with this stuff. Black Panther also jumps to mind just because of how great the movie was and as a part of the MCU and just great performances across the board, great action. I don't think A Star is Born is going to stand the test of time. Roma's good. I saw it. Do I need to see it again, though? Am I going to be talking about it for 30 years? Probably not. This is a tough one.
I think I'm going to go actually with Black Panther, although I'm going to cheat a bit because it's still not like necessarily just like the stand the test of time by itself, but because I feel like I think in the future when we look back at this era in filmmaking, a lot of what we're going to be talking about is franchises and the Marvel Cinematic Universe in particular and how much that did. And I feel like Black Panther was, kind of the pinnacle of that in a lot of ways. Like it's one where everything about that kind of filmmaking just kind of clicked into place, and it's one of the only ones that's gotten this level of acclaim. So I think that when people look back, they're like Black Panther is going to be one of the films we're talking about, like especially in that context, and also just because it's a good movie. The other thing that's going to happen is a lot of kids are going to watch Black Panther and be introduced to that character and fall in love with those characters, and it's going to be something that they cling on to for the next 20, 30 years, the way that we still love movies that we saw in the 80s and the 90s. So I think for those reasons, it's going to be one that will stay talked about for a while.
Yeah, I'll double down on that one because I think when you have certain movies in the superhero genre hit at the right way for a kid seeing it for the first time. Like I'm still talking about Superman 1978. People are still talking about The Dark Knight and how it didn't get that Oscar nomination. So you add the first Oscar nomination for Best Picture to a superhero movie, and then you add in the people like I still talk about, like, in the MCU, we talk about, like, well, it's still this, it's still that, but we always bring up Iron Man, maybe because it was his origin story. We always, like, there's something about the first movie for that particular character that can really land. So I think that has the best chance for moving forward, like 30 years. Like, I remember when I saw Black Panther in the theater, I was 5 years old, and it changed my life like Superman did for me. So we might see it that way.
You guys took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to pick Black Panther as well. So I will leave it with your beautiful statements and say goodbye. That's all the time we have for you today. But I want to thank you all for watching. Riley and sorry, Riley, but Angie in particular.
Angie's
thank you for joining us in the studio today. Just so everybody can find you after the show wraps up, what is your Twitter handle?
You can find me on Twitter at AJHAN, and I write for Mashable.com, so you can find all my writing there.
Cool. Go check it out.
Yeah.
Another huge thank you to Adam in the booth, as always. Thank you guys for watching. Like and share this episode. Tell everybody you know about Movie Talk on the YouTube channel and also on the podcast network as well. And then tune in tomorrow, 4 p.m. PT, for a live episode of Movie Talk with that guy right there.
Yeah.
And go visit Perri in Hawaii.